All right, if you would, please grab a seat. We're going to stick to our timetable. I want you to realize that tonight, I'm very pleased with our speaker. I'll introduce very briefly, but I want you to know that this presentation is going to be taped, recorded, in other words. And so just be aware of that. I always want to know if I'm being recorded, so you now know you're being recorded. I'm not going to give him any introduction. You see the title of his presentation. Very pleased to have Greg Hawkes here with us from Oklahoma. Greg, all yours. Take charge.
All right. I am grateful to get to be here on a Monday afternoon at 4 o'clock. I can't think of a better time than when people want to sit and soak in conversations of the day, as if you haven't been doing it all throughout the day and the last week. So I'm anticipating you guys to be well-versed in interaction, in listening really well. Still have my David Bowie going, sorry. I hear music. I'm going to turn that music off for us. So I am highly expectant of you as an audience. I should just tell you that. What I appreciate from you is that you're at the start of a second week. You've been through a deluge of information. I suspect you have very low expectations. You're like, oh my God, one more speaker. I'll endure. I'll get through it. And then we'll go have drinks upstairs. So you'll find I do really well when you have low expectations. So I think this should work out really awesomely. With my expectations high for you, your expectations low for me, we should have a grand time for the next hour or so. We are going to get into this, but before I do, I like to have my phone out. Sometimes in these scenarios, people say, put your phone away. No. I request that you take your phone out if you do that with me now. Because here's what I have found, that people that are leaders, that are growing, that you've set yourself up for 2 weeks to be expanding your capacity, the last thing you want to do is keep that information private. Particularly in the day and age we live for recruiting great talent and high-level leaders. I don't know in your community banks if you're looking for people who are stellar individuals and want to do something big with their life, but do you know where they are? They're on social media. Do you know what I find with leaders and organizations who don't put themselves on social media? They don't attract people because they're not where the war on talent, as people say, is being fought. If you are in an environment where you're growing and stretching, guess what next generation leaders want? They want people, and they want to be around people who are consciously thinking of becoming better than they currently are. And if you're not doing this kind of thing, go ahead and get your phone out. We're going to practice. This is a side benefit for you. I know all of you have at least something, maybe your Facebook page or your Instagram page. Go ahead and take your phone out. Let's practice. You have a camera on your phone, right, that you can take pictures of yourself or of other people. I recommend taking pictures of other people. That's what I'm going to do right now. But some of you are like, I'm really the best looking one in my row. And so you can do this one too, where you're like, yeah! Go ahead and do that. Now, take a picture of someone in your row or of yourself or behind you of other people. I know some of you are self-conscious or you don't normally do that. I'm going to get a picture of people taking pictures of people. We could get very meta here. Some of you did things over the weekend that you don't want those pictures to be posted. I understand. All right, now we're just going to take one more minute. Then we'll get it. Listen, there's plenty of time for me to talk. But let's take this moment for you to take that picture of you and that good-looking person beside you and say whatever organization you're from. Here at our bank, we love to learn. We love to grow. We love to be in environments where people are stretched and challenged. See, because it's not just the PR department. It's not just an HR responsibility. It's everyone that's part of a team to be promoting that you're in an environment that is progressive, about becoming better. Because next generation leaders are attracted to places who are currently expanding themselves and growing. And if you're here for 2 weeks and nobody knows it, you're not attractive to any next generation leader. And of all people, those of you that are trying to become better should let other people know that. So go ahead and take that picture you took of someone, and there's a hashtag, GSBC 2018. That's where everybody's hanging out. The 4 people who tweet at this conference, that's where we all been hanging out. There's a solid 4 people who are promoting over the last week that they're in an environment where they're expanding themselves. Oh, I just want to help. I'm just here to help. So if you're on Facebook, put it there. If you're on Instagram, put it there. If you're on Twitter, for the 2 of you that are on Snapchat, put it there. And let people know you're the kind of people that like to be enlarged, that like to be challenged, that want to be stretched and want to grow, because then you'll attract those kind of people. If not, you won't. It's a pretty simple idea. And you're welcome. I have this philosophy. We've got an hour or so together. If what I'm talking about doesn't compel you, doesn't excite you, doesn't interest you, well, then don't waste this hour of your life and blame it on me. You have a phone. You have access to the internet. You can text other people in the room. You can make dinner plans for after the reception. Like, don't sit there and just go, oh my God, how much longer is this going to go on? Bust out your phone. Do something productive. If it bothers the person next to you, that's their problem. This is 2018. Like, if somebody on a cell phone distracts you, you got bigger issues. So, I'm happy for you to keep your phone out. I'm happy for you to take pictures throughout the whole thing. I'm happy for you to talk to other people. Do whatever you want to do as we get through it. I'm on social media. I love LinkedIn. Business folks, that's where we like to hang out. I'm on these other ones as well. So you're welcome to join me there. Now, for the next hour or so, we're looking at an ownership culture. I live in Edmond, Oklahoma. And for the last 18, 17 years, I've had single-family investment properties. So I like to do a disclaimer. So it's a side gig. I've got single-family homes. So I have owners and renters in that place. So today we're going to talk about owners and renters. My disclaimer is this. I don't personally care how you've chosen to live your domestic life. So if you own, I'm happy for you. If you rent, I'm happy for you. If you live with your mama, I'm happy for you and sad for her. But I just want to be clear because renters in our scenario today aren't as happy and positive and good as owners. But some people, they're sitting there like, I rent my house and I take better care of the landlord. So get all that out of your system now, because I personally don't care, unless you've lived in one of my homes. And then this will get really awkward really quick. And there are people from Oklahoma in the room, so it's possible. And those of you in the other rooms, did you know there's like a whole nother slew of people in other rooms that didn't want to do this face-to-face? They were a little concerned about meeting you all this way, so they're on these cameras that they're talking about upstairs, and so we'll all run up and meet them in a couple minutes. Or we'll go bombard floor 2. They're all on floor 2. So, owners, renters, disclaimer. When you look at this, 2 pictures. Which one, totally speculative, I'm asking you to make it up. Which one do you think is the owner? And which one do you think is the renter, and why? This is going to be a participatory experience. I don't ask rhetorical questions, and I'm happy to talk to people clear here in the back of the room as well as the front of the room. So I just want to make sure, oh, you can see the pictures clear back here. Okay, good. So which one do you think owns, and which one do you think, it's speculation. I get it. Go ahead and make something up. Why you think one would be an owner, one would be a renter. Just raise your hand, and we'll start with you. Yes, sir. Owner on the left because of what? It's your grass. They're sitting on it. They look like they've taken ownership of it. They feel very comfortable there. People on the right standing out front, not on the lawn. Excellent observation. Who else has a thought? Yes, sir. Okay, so the one on the left is renting because the child is small, so they're a younger family. They're just starting out. These on the other side, they're older. They have older kids. Hopefully they bought the house before their kids started taking all their cash and eating it as young teenagers. So the family looks younger, so starting out, renter on this side, owner on that side. Who else has a perspective? Well, let me just say this. I know all of you in the room have an opinion, so I'm just asking a few more of you to share it. It's like people don't sit in an audience like this and go, I'm not thinking. Oh, no, you have a thought. Your unwillingness to share it just reflects something about you, but I'm asking, yes, sir. Okay, so left one you think is an owner because you see a garage. Is that right? Okay, and then this one, I've heard this before. I'm assuming there's a garage tucked in on that side, but that's not the point. The point is we see a garage here, they own it, these people rent it, and their car get hail damage every year. And the renter don't care. Okay, one more person, and then I'll let you go. Yes, sir.
Guys on the left are owners.
Owners. Okay, so owners on the left because they've spent more cash on all the shrubbery, the foliage, everything happening there. On the right, it looks a little thinned out. Cheap landlord. Okay. Did anybody else have one they wanted to share before I shut it down and move on? Yes, sir. Neither.
Just to take the picture.
Okay, so people like to say that it's not true. What he just said is actually true, but I didn't hire them. It's stock photos, and I have no idea who owns it and who rents it. So that's why I'm saying we're making this all up. We're all in it together. Here's what I will say, though. And the reason I like to start off with this exercise is because here's what I know about you, whether you shared it or not. You have an opinion of what ownership looks like. You have a thought about what it looks like for you or someone else to be bought in and what it looks like someone else is just kind of renting and biding time. And because you have a set of thoughts about that, you yourself see yourself as an owner, generally speaking. And so when you look at these pictures and you see something, so he said owner because all the nice shrubs and all that, renter because thinned out. I've had people say the exact opposite. Oh, they look like they take care of the yard, so they really care about it. These people over here, just all overgrown and doesn't look like it's well taken care of. Exact same pictures, exactly the opposite response. We do that with people that we work with, work for, that work for us all the time. We make judgments on who and how they are based on who and how we are. It's not uncommon. It's our human nature to do that because, generally speaking, we think we're right. And how far off people are different than us, we think they're wrong. And so what I want to do today is unpack an idea of ownership in the work environment that helps us have a standardized perspective so you can self-reflect. And then when you think about other people, you can use some criteria that isn't just from your own sense of rightness. And I will say this, generally when I have this conversation with audiences, there's a tendency for people to think of other people. Because they'll hear things like, oh, that's good. Oh, you know who needs to hear that? So-and-so needs to hear that. Oh, I wish they'd have been here to hear that. They needed that. Those guys up on the second floor that aren't paying attention right now, I hope they're listening to this because they needed to hear this. Here's what I would say about that. Somebody wished harder that you would be here to hear this. Consider that for a moment. So, take it in yourself and then think about other people who could. So I saw somewhere this was discussed. It might have been in the summit, might have been somewhere else. Generally speaking, Gallup does a poll every other year, say the American workforce ends in this way. 30% are engaged, 50% are disengaged, 20% are actively disengaged. In my language, that's 30% are owners, 50% are renters, 20% are vandals. It is true. In every workspace, these three characters exist. And the way I think of them, so we're all on the same page, owners bring heart, head, and hands. So they're people who show up with passion, who show up with excitement, who show up with zeal, who show up with imagination, who are using creativity to solve problems. Renters, good folks. Statistically speaking, every other person in this room is a renter because they are people who do a job. They are the driving workforce in America. They have a skill, they have an ability, and they do their job. They've generally stopped caring. They generally have been trained to pull back, so they do. But they show up on time, do the job with excellence even, and then they go home when the job is over. And they just let it go. So it's not like renters are bad folks. They're just not bringing heart. And they're not bringing imagination. They're not bringing creativity. They're not bringing their head to it. They're just bringing their hands to it. And vandals, who we won't spend but a moment today, are divisive. The unfortunate element with vandals is some really good people can do some really destructive actions at work, even with good intentions. But they create divisions amongst people, and that's the essence of who a vandal is. They're actively destroying the team that they're working with, sometimes unintentionally. People who gossip, they don't realize how destructive that is. People who silently sabotage, sit in a meeting, they say, here's what we're going to do. Person goes, that ain't never going to happen. And they just quietly keep going about doing their job, but not helping. And then when it doesn't work out, they're the people that go, I could have told you that, it never worked. Those are the people that we need to get out. And my simple philosophy is this: arrest and evict vandals, period. And then with renters, we look to do lease purchase. How do we help you buy back in? And so today we're going to look at these 5 distinct differences between owner and renter. Here's what you're going to find. It's not either or. You will be, feeling so good about yourself in one moment because you're an owner, baby. You got it. You're there. And then the next one, it might be like, suck. You're renting. You might on this piece just be like, crud. So prepare yourselves for a little bit of an emotional lift that way. But if anything, we'll have some fun with it. So the first distinctive, and there are 5 of them. Do you mind if I put this here? No. Okay, well, if it won't distract you, thank you. Is owners make a big deposit, renters make a small deposit. Owners make a big commitment, renters small. So 2001, bought my first house, 3-bedroom, 2-bath. It was with actually a community bank in Edmond, Oklahoma that I got my mortgage. It's great little, right by UCO. Bought it for $77,000. I still own this house. I love it. But so when my wife and I bought it, we put 20% down because, we hate PMI. We're trying to cash flow, and it's our first purchase, and so we wanted to have a little buffer. So 20%, $77,000. All of you bankers, how much is that? Yeah, about $15,000. You guys seem really quiet. I told Jane earlier, I don't know. I don't really normally think of bankers as a quiet group of people. So when I ask a question, you feel free to shout it out. Or our reception, I'm looking forward to our reception afterwards. Be like, this is the most constrained, quiet reception. So so we put $15,000 into this house, which for my wife and I, big commitment. We signed a 30-year mortgage. So we made a lifetime commitment. When I got my tenant, he signed a 1-year lease, and I think back then gave me like $600. $15,600. 30 years, 1 year. Huge difference in our willingness to make a deposit and our willingness to make a commitment, because attached to it is risk. As you all know, how much I'm willing to extend out there puts me at that much risk. And at work, the same is true. Think about it for a moment. How do you define your commitment? If someone said to you, are you committed? Are you committed here? I'm going to just presuppose most of you say yes. I mean, you're here for 2 weeks. My goodness. You must want to do something in life. But I'm talking about being committed to your team, to your bank, to the people you serve with, to the community you serve with, your clients. How do you measure that? What is the criteria you use? Sometimes people have said in the past, time. They use time, which I think is a really poor metric. Because some people have been around a long time. Maybe you know people like this. I've been here 25 years. And I always think, you might just have a high tolerance for pain. You might just be able to endure and just think, I'm going to outlast this person. I've seen these managers come and go before, and I'll just dig in. Time is not a real great measurement if you're bought in. Now, equally, people who've been around a long time, coach, mentor, pass on institutional knowledge, they can be a great asset. So again, it's not that being somewhere a long time is good or bad. It's just not a really great criteria for if someone's really bought in. The same is true on a day-to-day basis. Some people say, I'm the first one in and the last one out. And I think to myself, you might be really slow at your job. You might be really ineffective. As a matter of fact, you might be bad at your job, and it takes you twice as long as everyone else. Or it could be you're really committed to yourself, and you're doing all of that for you. Commitment to a team and to the whole is a lot different than commitment. Some people might work really long and hard, but it's not for anybody but themselves because they want to get ahead, because they want people to look at them. So time, both long-term and short-term, is really an ineffective measurement. So I really want you to think about it. What does it look like for someone to be committed in your world? What does it look like for you to say, I am committed, and here is why that is? I have found two elements that are really standardized, excellent, that when people are committed, both of these remain true in their life. First one is contribution. I operate out of a philosophy that everyone starts out on the job as an owner. When someone new comes on the team, they have a desire to prove their worth, to show that they're in it. They're creative. They're putting their heart into it. They're willing to do what it takes. They want to let everyone else know they're there. So when you have meetings and team meetings, they show up and are very quick to offer. Ooh, this last place I was at, we did this. Have you guys tried that here? Hey, I was watching these YouTube videos. I know you guys went out and partied this weekend, but I studied and went and watched, and I listened to some podcasts, and I listened to things. And if you guys thought about this, I think we could do this here. I think it'd be really great. Or they're like, I've read a book. I've been reading a book. And here's what they say in this book. Have you guys considered that here? And of course, everyone else in a team meeting is like, oh my God, who's the new person? Like, don't they know? Like, we're just having a meeting to have a meeting. We just do this every Monday morning. Like, calm down. And of course, everyone at the table is thinking the same thing. Just wait, newbie. We'll crush your spirit too. We'll tell you no enough times, you'll come in and just remain silent. You'll stop all this business of trying to invest. And that's really part of the perversity of work environments. That's why I like hanging out in the culture space and work organizational culture, because people come in wanting to give and contribute and participate. Environment says, no, we don't care. We don't want that. We don't really need you to do that. Just shut up and do what we tell you to do. They pull back, turn into a renter, and then leadership goes, man, I just don't think they're bringing their best anymore. They just don't show up with their A game. And it's because the perversity of the culture crushes the ownership spirit out of them and then blames them for being a mediocre producer. And people that work and live in it don't even see it. It's unfortunate because everyone that starts out that wants to contribute, I'll tell you why contributing is hard, because when you're sitting there and no one else is speaking up, it's risky to keep putting yourself out there and saying, what about this? How about we try that? What do you think about? Because at some point it feels like you're just banging against this wall, and yet when you care, right, when your heart's in anything, you continue to offer even when nobody else does. It's a really great metric on if you're bought in or not. Because even if you stop offering, contributing, thinking about new possibilities and new ways, could be you've pulled back. Could be you've had your feelings hurt. Could be you've decided, what's the point? All that's renter behavior. Because it's a low deposit. It's like, I don't want to take the risk of continuing to offer. So contribution is a major indicator if you're bought in or not, because it reveals your level of commitment. Accountability is hard for two reasons. First of all, because some of you in the room have massive egos. And to be able to say something like, I need would you be willing to help me? Some of you just can't do it. You just can't say, I need help. And I got news for everyone in the room, and I know this scientifically. All of you in this room suck in several ways. Part of human nature. In several areas of life, you suck and will never get good. You will always suck. Go ahead and let that sink in. That's good. Because you're human, that's absolutely true. It just is. So here's what I found first. A couple things with accountability. First, if you're unwilling to say to someone, I need help, what it means is I'm more committed to me than I am the team. Because I'm somehow pretending like I can do it all. All of my professional responsibilities I've been entrusted with is why it gets awkward. Because you feel like, well, this is what they're paying me to do. How can I ask somebody to help me? Because you need it. You'll never, ever be the best you can be without people around you nudging. And that's what accountability is. You saying, hey, I want to make sure I keep getting better. Will you nudge me? Will you remind me? Will you give me a little press? Listen, if we didn't need accountability in our life, all of us would be the smartest, sexiest, best communicators, great at relationships, great with our own money, great with our physical activity, well-disciplined in everything. We just would, because we know those things are best. But we don't because we're human. Unless somebody's alongside of us, nudging us, reminding us, saying, hey, remember you wanted to do this. Remember you didn't want to do that. What are you doing? Somebody calling us on where we cut ourselves slack. It's human nature. Everyone in the room, for you to be the best version of you, can't do it alone. And if you don't have anyone helping you, that you've said, hey, I don't do this as well as I'd like to, help me get there. Help remind me I want to make the effort to be that person. If we don't have that, then we'll shrink to mediocrity and we'll stay really good with that. Because that's how it works. And so what it says is, if we're not willing to be held accountable, what's really our commitment? Because generally speaking, it's to us first. The other thing that's hard about accountability, some of you in the room like people. And because you like people, holding them accountable is hard for you. Somebody comes in and says, hey, I need you to help me. You're like, yeah, I'll help you. But then when they don't live up to it, you don't have any bite. You don't have any teeth. You don't have any consequence. You, because of the way your personality is, the way you're wired, you don't know how to say, that's going to cost you. I'm going to inflict pain in your life because you asked me to. So we help create new behaviors in your world. Some of you don't hold people accountable well. Maybe because you're so empathic, maybe because you're just so grace-filled, maybe because you know you have flaws too, and so who are you? I got news for you. All of us have those issues. And so it takes a high level of commitment, if it's unnatural for you, to have bite to holding people accountable. And it's hard because it's awkward. You have to have these conversations that can feel challenging, and yet they're necessary for us as people and as organizations to grow. It's hard. That's why it reflects our commitment. Because here's what I find. I find people think their commitment to work is reflected in their commitment to themselves. And they're two different things. And so when you think about those and ponder those, these are real evidence of if we're committed to the organization we're a part of, if we're committed to the team we're serving, if we're committed to the leadership who's guiding us. So that's the first one. The second one I'm going to tell you, it sounds like you guys probably need a heads up, I'm going to have you interact with each other here in a moment. And since you're such a talkative bunch of people, I want you to mentally prepare for that interaction. Also, these seats don't have belts. So if you're like looking around, like while I'm talking in this little section, look around. If you don't want to talk to these people, when I get to that point, get up and move. You can get up and just sit somewhere else. Say, oh, I've been seeing people I know. I want to go talk to somebody else. Even if you don't know them. And you don't have to come back to that seat. Get up, move, and then stay there. So the second one, owners increase value, renters only maintain. So I have a house built in 1983. It's in Kelly Park. It's 2-story, 1,900 square foot. Several years ago, I moved a Brady Bunch family in. Now I should step back and tell you this. My entire real estate investing strategy is this. I buy nice houses and I put nice people in them. I'm going to tell you again because it's pretty complex. I buy nice houses and I put nice people in them. That's my entire real estate strategy. I can't fix anything. I'm not a flipper. I'm not a rehabber. If I attempt to make something right, I break it, damage it, cause us more expense. So I have to pay for everything to be fixed. So that's the kind of real estate investor I am. Nice houses, nice people. This house is Kelly Park. Guy calls me a few years ago, Brady Bunch family. So dad and mom got married. They each brought like 3 or 4 kids. It's kind of a crazy house. 4 to 20-year-olds. The older children start populating the earth and roll them into this house. It's zaniness over there. And I love going and visiting it for a moment. Mom has the good fortune to stay at home. Mom gets to domestic engineer all that business. And she is really good at it. Dad's out in the workforce. One day Dad calls me and says, hey, Greg, our oven is arcing. I said, I don't weld either, but I'll come over and have a look. So it's original oven, 27-inch in the wall. Costs more than the 30-inch for some reason. So I open it up, turn it on, and sure enough, because it literally had dissolved. The bottom burner had just, so when you turned it on, it was literally like throwing this flame and spark. And I said, Dad, let's not turn it on. That's how we'll fix that. I will buy you a new oven. While I'm there, Mom says, hey, Greg, 3 of our 4 burners on our stovetop don't work. I said, what? Like, how's that possible? This woman cooks every single day of her life. 1 to 2 meals minimum. So they have like a extra long picnic table as their dining room table. I am not making this up or joking. And the kids literally just like rotate through. And so Mom is constantly kitchen, bringing all that. And so she tells me this, and I'm a little perplexed because I have a wife and I have a stovetop. And if we ever, because they're the kind that you could replace, and like the ceramic, she changes out some. And but we ever, when we had that kind of stovetop, one didn't work, my wife was talking to me about it regularly. If at some point 2 burners at one time were ever down, there was no reason for me to be in the house. I mean, I'm just sincerely, there was nothing else that would have been discussed or mattered in that home until those burners were fixed. And let me just tell you a little secret. My wife doesn't cook half as much as this woman does. And so I was like, I'm the landlord. I buy appliances, stoves, ovens. Like, these are things that I consider in the realm of landlording. And so I was like, why didn't you tell me? Blah, 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 blah. She just put it off. I had a friend make an observation that I think is really excellent if you're a leader, supervisor, oversee people. He said, she might not have trusted your response to her, which I thought was, because here's how we all think of ourselves. I'm the best landlord ever. I'm generous. I'm kind. I want to take care of these people. Of course I'm going to buy her a new stovetop that's not working. And yet she was operating on 1 out of 4 burners and not telling me about it. So she's producing for her children. Here's a thing of green beans, and she's doling out her green beans, and she's going back and doing her pork chops, and she's coming back with the pork chops. Some kids are getting warm pork chops. Some kids are getting cold green beans. And it's worse than mediocrity that she's putting out daily to feed her children because of this stove. And so he says to me, she might thought your response would have been to blame her. Your response might have put it back on her, and she just couldn't afford it. And so it's always good for us leaders when we have people who do silly things and we think to ourselves, what is wrong with them? Why would they do such foolish things? It's always good as a leader to go, I wonder what I've created that they didn't feel good about talking to me about that first. I wonder what level of approachability I'm keeping with them so they don't go and do crazy things and produce mediocrity consistently and feel really good about it. Because here's what people do when they think like a renter. They can justify mediocre outputs regularly. What am I supposed to do? I only got 1 burner. What am I supposed to do? Nobody gives me a budget. What am I supposed to do? I don't have any authority around here. So I guess I don't have the resource. I don't have the tools. So you know the people you work with, when they do a job poorly, they don't blame themselves. They're blaming something else. Whether it's you as a leader, whether it's the organization as in their priority, whether it's where resources have been allocated, they never go, I'm really bad at this job. Jeez, I'm so bad. I'm going to do this again tomorrow. I'm going to show up and do it again tomorrow. I'm going to do a really bad job. No, that's not the way we work. You and I don't do that. We don't consciously, purposely go, I'm going to produce junk in my work day in and day out. No, if we're consistently producing mediocre outputs, we're blaming it on someone else. We're surely not the reason that is. So here's what I found with people who don't have access to a budget and who aren't on an org chart with authority on how you and I can increase our value and increase the value of our organization without a budget and without authority and even without approval. So these are the two things, encouragement and investment. Encouragement and investment. Let's see. All right. Def Leppard. Martin. Martin, tell me what you do. Okay, so you said that very simply. Commercial lender. Are you on a team? Are you a one-man show? What size of a group are you with?
We're with a team of about 4 lenders.
Okay. And who do you have any ideal clients or people you're going for? Can you give me like an industry? Construction. Okay. So let's say Martin and I work together, and Martin's in commercial lending. And he and I are on the same team. So, and I work with Martin, and I'm trying to increase my value. I want my value in the bank to grow. I want Martin's value to grow. I want our team to grow, but I got no dollars. I got no authority. So I say, Martin, you know what I love about working with you? First of all, you've been on this team a while, and some of these other characters we work with, they just don't seem cut out for it, and you keep a nice pace, and it seems like you're very respectful of some of their dumb questions. You have a real sense of regard for our colleagues, and I think that's admirable. You treat people with a high level of respect. Also, with our construction clients that we're going after, what I notice is sometimes they're crazy people, and you have a level of calmness in working with them and some of their aspirational nuttiness that you, I think, do a really great job of giving them hope, letting them know what will kind of qualify them, and giving them steps they can take to really kind of grow their business. And it almost is like you're a partner with them in that. And I just think that's an admirable characteristic about you, and so it just makes me proud to be on the same team with you. So when I say that to Martin, here's what happens. A couple things takes place. First, whether Martin consciously or subconsciously says something out loud, he thinks, frickin' A, it's about time somebody noticed. Because we all think we do a good job. If you don't understand that about human nature, you'll really do a poor job as a leader. People think they do a good job, regardless if you think they do a good job. So when I validate some of his behaviors, he first off goes, that is right. That is the person I am. That is how I treat people. I've been doing that. I'm so glad Greg noticed, because I've been purposefully doing that. Second thing that happens, Martin says to himself, I like when Greg's around. I don't know what it is about Greg, but I like when he's here. Because he goes from place to place. When he shows up here, there's just something about that guy I like. Here's a great leadership principle for you to really understand. People like people who like them. I'm going to say it again because it's profoundly simple. People like people who like them. Here's where most leaders make a miss. Most leaders wait to decide if they like someone based on that person. You know what advantage I have coming into this room? I like all of you. Sincerely. I don't even have to know you. I don't have to talk to you. I like you not based on who you are. I like you based on who I am. So I've got an advantage. Because here's what most people do. They wait and they're talking, they're hanging out. We'll go up to a reception, we'll talk to people. That's not sure. Most people are more different than alike, and likenesses cause us to feel connected. And so what happens is when we interact with people that we don't know, creates a sense of dislike, because you'll find more things different about them than similar to you. That's why when you find things that are similar, as a leader, when you're leading people, the smart thing is, where do you find where the gears connect? Where are things you have in common so they feel more close to you? These are all very simple relational leadership principles, but not people don't often insert them. So I don't really want Martin to like me, so he punches my Facebook thumbs and all that. Why I want to be a person that Martin goes, man, I like when that Greg's around. Here's what it does. It accelerates trust. So now all of a sudden, Martin and I just don't like each other. We trust each other. And I have found people don't trust people they don't like, regardless of the role in life they play. And so as a leader, I'm always looking for ways to accelerate trust because it's foundational to everything in every business, in every relationship, in every interaction, in every problem, in everything we're trying to achieve. If Martin and I have thick trust, then we have a lot of absorptive qualities to have hard conversations. We don't have to dance around issues. We can get right to the root. So I increase value when I say encouragement. Now, what I said to Martin was very specific. The nature of the human soul is the negative sticks and the positive slips. Our soul is leaky when it comes to good. Stinks, but it's the reality that we live with. So somebody says something really ugly and mean to you 10 years ago. Some of you, your lives are shaped by it. You can't shake it. You can't let it go. It's people, adult people in this room have had ugly, mean things said to them, and it still affects how they interact with other human beings today. It's a bummer. It's the nature of the soul. Those negative things grab hold. Here's the challenge with positive. They slip right out. And so when I say specifically, when Martin interacts with a colleague and shows him respect, it's a very specific behavior and attribute, what I'm doing is putting hooks in the positive comment that then gives a weightiness to it remaining. Because that's what's going to impact him. The challenge with some of us, my personality is like, you're awesome, you work here, I love you. I go around and encourage people every day. I'm Mr. Encouragement. You're the best. I love how you do that. Thanks so much. And it's like a sugar hit. It feels really good in the moment. It was like, yeah. But then like a sugar hit, it can turn ugly. It can turn negative. It's like, that's not sincere. He doesn't even know what I do. He doesn't even know my name. Wait, he thinks that guy's awesome and he thinks I'm awesome? That guy sucks. Oh, man. So do I suck? Right? So all of a sudden, this very thing you think is a real bonus. Every morning I come into the office and I tell everybody, you're doing a good job, you're doing a good job. If it has no specificity to it, has no weightiness to it. And it has no potency to impact behavior. So what makes me valuable is when I say those specific words to him, it actually sticks. He actually is interacting with a construction potential client. He's thinking about, Greg said this thing, I want to be a partner with them and help them in their business. And all of a sudden, the words that I used, free words didn't cost me anything, but a little bit of observation and then a willingness to share it. Didn't cost me anything. And it increases his value. It increases my value to him. And with that, we both become more valuable in our organization, which enables us to serve people better. It's crazy how amazing free words can be if you're intentional with them. Investment is just as simple as if I'm listening to something. The challenge with investment is you have to be a self-learner. So I can come back to Martin and say, Martin, I was listening to this Martin Gladwell podcast, Malcolm Gladwell podcast. I get it mixed up with you all the time. And I'm like, Martin, Malcolm, his new podcast is out, Revisionist History. I think you're going to love it. It's talking about this thing about histories and memories, and we were talking about that. I think you'll love it. I'm going to send you a link. Or, hey, Tim, I was reading this book. And man, the book, I just was reading it, and I thought of you, and I thought things that you've gone through, how this would be helpful. I want to give this to you. It doesn't cost me anything, but the way we create value is investing it. Right now, right, if somebody's paying for you to be here, huge investment. You should feel like somebody values you to be here because of the time and financial commitment being made for you. It's like a big hug. Right? Like we value you. That's why we're investing in you to be at a place like this. If you're doing it on your own dime, you love yourself, right? You're like, I want to grow. But if somebody invests in you, man, it's a real value add. But if you're not a self-learner, you don't do that because you have no resource to pull from. You don't have a book you're reading. You don't have a podcast you're listening to. You don't have a YouTube channel you're following. You don't have resources yourself that to pass on. So that's why that one is pretty huge if you yourself are a learner. So let's do this. I told you you're going to talk to each other. This is the conversation. And let's just do the encouragement one. How in your world is encouragement done? So let's step back. Maybe in a past world, maybe in a current world, maybe in a spouse, partner, friends world where you're like, this is a really great way that we encourage people, or that I've been encouraged. That's systemized, strategic, thoughtful, possibly random, but more intentional. What in your organization, in your bank, in your area department, how do people encourage one another? What are ways that people do that causes them to feel valued? We're going to talk about it. Say you're going to get in groups of 4, 5, 6, maybe 6. No more than 6, because I want everybody to have a share. I'm going to put on a bit of music. We're going to talk amongst ourselves, and I want you to come up with here's a really, not come up with. I want you to share out, here's something I've experienced at work that was really great, or had a friend that did this, or the old place you used to work, or we do this every month, and whatever it is, collaborate there and talk amongst, you're not trying to add to or take away from, listen to other people in the circle, and then when I'm going to give us 5, 6 minutes, when that's over, then I'll have 2 or 3 of you share, and then we'll move on. So you are all adults, so groups to 4 to 6, not just 1 or 2. So if you have to get up and move, you're going to turn around in your chairs, it's only 5 minutes. You can literally just stand up and talk to each other. I don't care. But let's going to do that, and we'll come back in 5, 6 minutes. All right. All right. Good news is I ran upstairs to the second floor, checked in with all of our classmates up there. Somebody's going to take a picture of us, what we look like on the screen. All of them are literally sleeping. Heads down, snoozing. And what's funny is there's like 4 rooms, and they'll all can verify this because I know you're watching me. They're watching us on these little screens up there. There's like a handful in each room. It's the best. I'm like, we actually have chairs here. You could all consolidate into one, but we want to spread out. So I appreciate, so listen, it makes me even more appreciate those of you in this room. Thank you for being here and compressed sitting beside other human beings in this time together. So I just need 2 or 3 people to share with something good, whether you offered it or you heard it. You don't even have to tell your own thing. You're like, oh, I sit in this group and this guy said something. I thought that was a really great idea on what they're doing in the place, and we're going to start doing that. So you can tell your business or you can tell someone else's business. So it's really simple. 2 or 3 people, just lift your hand. We're going to put it on the microphone because it's a recording, and then we'll move on with life. I'm happy to take volunteers, or I'm happy to choose people. I should have told you that also. Thank you. Stand up.
Oh.
I know it's going to be a big thing. I know. By the way, standing up is a part of it. And I don't mind picking you if you don't volunteer because you're adults. You're fine. All right, tell us who you are and where you do life.
Rebecca Diaz. I do life in Pueblo, Colorado.
Wow, how beautiful. How fortunate for you.
It's really nice.
Okay, so what was the conversation you guys had?
So Jolene had a great point about giving credit where credit is due.
How did they do that?
Someone had an idea and they just made sure that the right name was stuck on it. So when it got passed up to the higher powers,
and then did they know that? Just like, hey, we know that somebody offered this idea, and so all the way up to the powers,
so
like, this was so-and-so's.
Yeah.
And did they implement the idea?
I don't know. Did they?
Okay, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they implemented the idea.
But Jolene had a great
that
idea.
name went with it all the way. Okay. Excellent. Thank you for sharing. Listen, that's the great thing about leadership also. Honestly, sincerely, that whole contribution thing, if people feel like they've gotten heard, and we don't have the money for that right now, this isn't the right season to do that, we don't have the manpower for that, okay. Well, as long as I feel like you listen and you appreciate it, like, that's good. You don't have to say yes, because most things get no. But feeling like you want to hear it, you actually heard it, and then considered it, bada bing, bada boom, that's the win. All right, 2 more people. Look how it's so easy. Yes, sir. Oh, man, you're making it easy for me. All right, John, stand up since we should force her to.
Here you go. I'm going to let Taylor hold my computer. This was his idea. He didn't want to share it.
Good. That's your Taylor's idea.
All right. Hi, everybody. I'm John. I'm from Oklahoma City.
John, I'm from Oklahoma City. Come on.
Okay. Taylor has a great idea. We're going to do this at my bank, and it's fantastic. It's about encouragement, and it's called Give a Hand. And there's this sheet of paper in my mind. I've had this whole thing put together in my brain, so it may not be what you said, but it's what I heard. So feel free to correct me. There's like this sheet of paper, and everybody at the bank is authorized to do this at any time. If you see somebody either in your area or outside your area, do something that's good. Do something for somebody else, maybe that's outside their job description, somebody that stretches. You write their name on it, maybe what they did. You walk up to them, you hand them, you give them the hand. You make a copy of it, maybe. Great. Okay, that's all. This is me now. Okay. And so
Taylor, we love your idea, but
that's right.
he's
That's right.
expanding it
I have
as we
editorial
speak.
rights. I'm sorry. You give them the hand and a pack of gum.
So it's a hand.
It's a hand because you give them.
Yeah,
Does everybody get that?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So the piece of paper was a hand. You didn't get that at the beginning.
Okay, sorry.
Now
Thank
we
you.
do.
Filling in
Okay.
the gaps. And so the other copy of that goes in a like a file or something. It goes in a box. But then actually before it goes in a box, they read it at the staff meeting. So everybody at the staff meeting, you read all the give a hand. So everybody across the bank gets to see that. And then after they read it, they stick it in a box. And then once a month, they draw the give a hand, and that person gets 4 hours of paid time off the next month.
Hey,
Boom!
that's cool. Excellent. Thank you, John, for stealing Taylor's idea and copywriting it and using it in yours. All right, one more person to share. Over here. Yes, sir. All right. All right, come on, stand up. Tell us who you are and where you do life at.
Okay, I'm Becky Bumpers,
Hey, Becky.
and I do life in Stigler, Oklahoma. It's a metropolis.
Stigler.
I know y'all have heard of
Oklahoma,
it.
strong, strong. Okay.
Okay, so at our bank, we for your anniversary, we send out an email and we say, "What do you love about Kelly?" And so
For Kelly's anniversary?
For Kelly's anniversary.
Okay, so everyone else
And
gets an
so-
email that says, Kelly's anniversary, tell us what you love.
What do you love about Kelly? And so then they send them back, and we post that on social media for them. And so it's pretty exciting when it's your turn because then you get to read all the things that people like about you.
Yeah.
And then you get to see what other people in the community say about you too.
So you gather all those. You don't tell Kelly. You say, Kelly, go look at Facebook because we've just posted on Facebook all these characteristics that people like about you.
Yes.
And then all of Kelly's friends will say, I love that about Kelly too. Or
Yes.
she acts like that there. She doesn't do that at home. What?
True.
So, okay. Very cool. All right. Thank you very much. All right. Give her a big hand, please. And I assume it goes without saying, but that the value of this kind of gathering is everyone in the room. I know you're getting a lot of great instruction, you're getting a lot of great instructors, but the real value is being connected with people here who throughout the year, you exchange ideas, you have somebody to cry on the shoulder, people quickly empathize because they get what you go through. So benefiting from the people in the room, hopefully you're leaving with lots of names. And I saw on the app, there's like a directory. So like get a name with that person and say, all right, I'm going to follow up. We're going to stay connected, so on and so forth. So the third one, and we've got a solid 20 minutes left, so I'll jet through these last three in a really slow manner that makes you wish it would never end. The third one is owners assume and reach for responsibility, renters avoid responsibility. Those of you that have been banking a while can appreciate this. In 2005, I was living the good life because, as y'all know, they were just giving away money like candy. So Capital One sent me a check for $30,000 and said, here, Greg, use our money, take our money. It'll be 2.99 for the first year and 1.99 for the life of the loan. I'm like, 2% money is free money. So I'm going to try something different, right? So I buy a nice house, put nice people. I'm going to go into Oklahoma City, right? This is 2005, if you recall. It's rehabbing, flipping. It's the glory days. And so this house, built in 1950, Oklahoma City proper, military home, they call it. I bought it for $33,000. 30 of Capital One's money and 3 of my own. And so I thought, well, this will be fun. Like, we'll have a go and see what happens. So it looked great. I mean, I love this house. 800 square foot, 2-bedroom, ginormous backyard. I mean, that's the actual house. The backyard is as long as this room, literally, which comes into play in a moment. I moved mom and her young son in. About 2 to 3 weeks later, she calls me and says, hey, Greg, there is poop coming out of our faucet. Huh? What? I have never seen that before. I'm coming over. So, unbelievably, it was as she said. Things were going in the reverse direction. So, bathroom faucet, tub, sink, it was disgusting. So I called Bob, my plumber. I said, Bob, I got something beyond my snaking skills here. Come on over. And so he said, all right, well, we'll dig a hole in the backyard. And, you know, I call it super snake. They'll auger, dig it up, auger, hit the pipe. Because the pipe, the sewage line goes from the house back to the city sewer, which then was running back there, back behind the backyard, which was really long. So I said, we'll come. He comes over with his big toys. I'm like, all right, I'm out of here. He calls me an hour later, and he says, Greg, we have some bad news. And I'm like, Bob, I got poop coming out of a faucet. How much worse does the news get? And then he said this, we can't break through. It's compacted. what? That's even grosser. What? Like, I don't understand. So he said, yeah, so the only thing we can do is dig and lay a whole new line from the house back to the sewer, and it's going to be several $1,000s. And I was like, that is not funny, Bob. I said, if there was anything funny about this, it would be this. I personally never contributed to that line. I myself never made a deposit. And yet now I'm paying for 50 years of other people's crap I had nothing to do with. And listen, that happens at work all the time. Where you're like, why am I fixing a problem that someone else created? See, now, the people who had created, they were already gone. What's really difficult is when you work in a place and you can just look down the hall and go, there's my crap creator. They're creating all of the problems I'm having to fix. And with ownership, right, we reach for responsibility. That's part of the deal. Ownership inherently has sacrifice in it. Of course, when I called the tenant, because I had to take her and her son and put them in a hotel, which, the world has gone backwards now where I'm paying for a tenant to live somewhere. But when I called her and I said, hey, it's going to take a couple more days because, we got compacted happening, her response was? Take all the time you need. That's exactly what she said. She's like, we're swimming in a pool every night. We're eating waffles for breakfast every morning. Like, it's the hotel life. We're good, Greg. Because she's a renter. She does not care about the problem. Even though she's living in the house, even though she's committed to be there, she's not fixing the problem. I am, because I own it. I'm paying for it to be fixed. I'm making great sacrifice for it to be made right. Because that's what owners do. We simply reach. And so this one, here's what I find. This one's a real easy one to spot. It's when stuff happens and people say, man, I hope somebody gets that fixed. And then they leave. Oh, you might be a renter. Because even owners, when they don't know how to fix it, it's how can I help? What can I do? What can we do to get this thing back right? How do we get the house functioning, healthy? I didn't have anything to do with it. I know the 2 or 3 people who did, and I could badmouth them all day long, but that's not the point. The point is, we got to get the place working. We got to get this place good. It's got to be functional. What can we do? And I will say this. So that's what I did. Paid, did whatever I had to do, got the woman back in, life went on. Daggone it, not a year later, HVAC issues. Flippers. And so I sold the property. I was like, it doesn't matter what happens here. I'm never going to, even though it's so cheap and it's Capital One's money, I'm never going to get a return on this. So I'm dumping this property and getting out. And here's another really good thing to understand about human beings. We're all doing it for a return. We're all getting something back for the sacrifice we're making. And as if a leader, you have go-to people, which I assume all of you do. Maybe you're one of them. Where it's like when something happens, go to this person, they'll figure it out. They'll rally the teams, they'll do what they got to do, they'll get it done. That person does it for a return. Could be financial, most likely it's not. Most likely it's a sense of who they are. This is who I am. I just do things like that. And so I have this whole self-image of myself that I'm a go-to person. And so when I do that, I get that return. And it really helps if someone else acknowledges that too. If someone else verbally recognizes the things I do. Big return. Or if it puts me in a relationship. Maybe I stay after and show up early and fix all these things so I get to rub shoulders with people I don't normally get to rub shoulders with. Or it puts me in a pipeline for promotion. Maybe it's something where I'm conscious, I'm doing all this because I expect somebody to remember all the sacrifice I'm making. Everybody makes sacrifices. Everybody invests in the home because they want a return. Whether it's emotional, physical, relational, financial. And you never want to be oblivious to that the really good people who do really good things, they do it because it does something for them as well. And as leaders, we want to be intentional about sourcing that. So what I determined was, I'm never going to get a return on this, so I sold the property. Because here's the deal with these kind of owners. They don't turn into renters. They sell the property and say, I'm going to go somewhere else and be who I am, where somebody will appreciate that, where somebody will recognize that, where I'll have opportunities to keep growing. So when you're wired this way as an owner, you don't turn into a renter. You go to another house where you can give yourself fully to it. And so as leaders, I always want us to be mindful that when we have those certain people who are just over and above, really understanding what is their return, what really gives back to them to feel like it's always worth the sacrifice. Because there's always going to be things come up. There's always going to be stuff happens that's unexpected, and markets and people and business. It just happens. So those people are so valuable because they're willing to reach for things that they weren't given. They're willing to do what wasn't theirs to be done. And so when we can be mindful on how we resource them and really understand them, go all in on that. Fourth one, owners are inclusive, renters are exclusive. So when I go back over, and this happens about every other year, to the house with the stove and the oven and the Brady Bunch family, I will randomly text when I'm in the neighborhood, hey, I'm in the neighborhood, I'm going to stop by. I go up, knock on the door, and without fail, it's this. And then this. Hey, Greg, what's going on? I'm like, well, I was in the neighborhood. I thought I'd stop by. It's not a good time. It's not a good time. It's bad to kids. Why? This is not a good time. And he's effectively doing this. This is what he's doing. He's saying, Greg, stay out. We want to keep you at a distance. You're the landlord. We're the tenants. Because it's how renters think. Renters think, we got to stay together because we're good. Landlord's bad. And of course, I'm standing on the front porch thinking, why are you treating me this way? I literally own this house. I'm providing a place for your family. And you're treating me like I'm the bad guy? What is up? Because here's what I find with renters. Happens at all levels of every organization where people think whatever group they're part of, whether it's a department, whether it's a floor, whether it's old-timers or new-timers, their little contingency, they got to stay together. Because we got it all figured out. They don't. Whether it's leadership, generally speaking, at every level of leadership, the tier below them think those guys, they don't really know. They don't remember. They don't remember what it's like to work the front line, they don't remember what it's like to work with, they just so up in their office, they don't know. So we got to stay together because they don't know. It happens from location to location. Oh, headquarters. What does headquarters know? Oh, the VP suite. Oh, the IT. Oh, people have that tendency. Total renter mentality. Because they think exclusivity gives them leverage. It's immature thinking is what that is. As an owner, I know I don't have all the answers, so I'm involving. On that property, when I had a new oven and stove to purchase, I said, Mom, go get on Han's website, get on Lowe's website, get on Best Buy. Pick the 5 brands, colors you like. I'm not buying the most expensive. I'm not buying the cheapest. You pick it out, I'll buy it. I want you to participate in this decision because you're going to be affected by it. I want you to love being in your kitchen. Why wouldn't I involve you in the decision for the appliances that are going to be in there? Because as an owner, here's what I know. The more I can involve people, the more they're going to like the results. It's the most bizarre idea in organizations that they resist people in other departments on their own team. Literally, my entire business and consulting is being an outside perspective to come in, and I have no skin in anybody's game, and just start talking about what could be better. And yet, if the sales people were meeting, and the HR professional walked in the door and said, I have got a few ideas about how you could get more business around here, how do you think they'd respond? Oh my goodness, come in and sit down and talk to us about what you think. Flipping A, no way. Right? No flipping way. Because here's what people do. You don't even understand what we do around here. You don't even know. You don't know what we've gone through. You don't know what we've been working with. Everyone gets real defensive when somebody else from outside their world wants to offer an opinion about their world. But you don't even understand. You don't even appreciate it. You don't know. You don't know what we've been going. You don't know what we've been working with. You don't even know how. How could you? Renter mindset. Defend, exclude. You don't know. We get keeps people small. It's literally, I mean, we're living in such an innovative time that any thought from any area inside your house that actually cares about your bank and they want to contribute, come on. Please. HR people, talk to sales. Sales, talk to HR. IT, talk to somebody. Just kidding. You know, the idea of saying, we want to invite you in and not exclude you out. I mean, think about your own world. Envision the people who are on your team. Now imagine someone else from another floor, another area, another division, walking in and saying, I have thoughts about how you guys could do better at what you're doing. And think of your real life scenario and how people respond to that. Because I'm almost certain most people laugh. Who do you think you are? Why do you think we care? What do you think you know? And it's why well-established companies over and over and over again lose market leadership. Because even within their own home, they exclude people who actually care about the house. And it's a really silly, silly idea. I propose when I meet with organizations, even on whatever the size it is, I'm like, hey, if you're a team of 4 and there's another team, every week you have a meeting, invite someone from another team to come sit in on your weekly meeting. Just listen. Hear how we talk. Hear what we talk about. Hear how we talk about things. And then after it's all over and done, take 5 minutes and share your thoughts on anything you've heard. You don't have to know anything about what we do, except that we're all doing it for the cause of the mission of our bank. And then we'd love to hear your thoughts in it. I'm telling you, it can be transformative in the way we see and think about the role we play. But what you'll find is renters stay exclusive. And owners are always open. And the real challenge is, if you're an owner, is how do you consciously, systematically invite input? Oh, we got a box. People can put their ideas in a box somewhere. That might be a start, except the problem is people don't do that. People talk to each other. People text each other. Get in a group, do a group something where there's engagement that helps people draw out. It's like leaders who are in a meeting and it's quiet in the meeting and they say, well, I had this great idea. I said it. Nobody said anything back, so everybody's on board. I call those leaders delusional. The idea is if smart people in a room and they're not speaking up, the role we play is to create triggers that extract the brilliance in the room. And if we're not doing that and we think their silence is agreement, then we're ignorant. It's nothing personal. But to involve people, it's not passive. You can't say, well, we send out an email. If anybody has any ideas, send them. That's passive. It's like saying an open door. We got an open door philosophy around here. You want to come in? The door's not the problem. The door's never been the problem. You're the problem. Open door philosophies that people don't walk through, it doesn't matter if the door is open or closed. It's the person in the room that's not approachable. So the same is true with all of this. We set up a box. We do things. They're all very passive, and yet they don't invite involvement. And if you're going to be progressively growing, you're going to be an owner, you invite involvement. I don't have any time to talk about vandals, but they're divisive. Don't be one. So think about ways you can involve and include. I will say this on the vandals. Sometimes really good people say really, the way I see it most, the way I see owners, people who really bought in at every other level, shift right into vandals, is when they paint a picture of another colleague in a way that taints the view of one of their colleagues. So in leadership, we're always talking about people, strengths, potential, what they do, what they don't do, capacities, all those kind of things. So it's not about not talking about people. It's about when I say to Martin, oh, Martin, I'll tell you about Amy. And we don't say this out loud. This isn't written down anywhere. There's a few things you should know if you're going to be working with her. It's going to give you a heads up. Listen, really good people with really good intentions do really stupid things. And that's divisive. Because what I'm doing now is I'm creating a lens for Martin that's from me and my experiences that then taints every interaction he has. And it's a lose, lose, lose. I was just trying to be helpful. You weren't. Okay, you tried, you failed. Don't do that. So, again, we don't have time to talk about it. The last one is owners see the whole house, renters see rooms. So this is the last story. I've got my favorite house is in Copperfield. It's a 4-bedroom, 2-story, 2,100 square foot, 3-bedroom up, master down, master bath, kind of classic setup. And it's not far from UCO, so I moved a couple years ago, 5 UCO Alpha, Gamma, Delta girls in it. I was like, go AGD. Because they were sophomores, juniors, seniors. I'm like, we'll just keep rolling these girls through. Their mamas pay for it. This is awesome. So the 3 girls got the room up top. Sometimes I say, I love college girls, but that doesn't always go over so well. So, but I feel like we're far enough in it. You get it, right? So the 3 girls all had the rooms up. The 2 girls shared downstairs. Girl upstairs, pinkified the room. Pink exploded everywhere. You walked in, there's like a shrine to her boyfriend of all these formals. You're like, I sense the presence of your boyfriend in this room. So like collage of her boyfriend. Girls downstairs took an iron, not once, but twice. Put it on my floor, on the carpet, on my bedroom floor, in the master bedroom. Why did they do that? I have no idea. Do you know what the girl in the pink room upstairs thought about my master bedroom floor carpet? Absolutely nothing. It's not her room. She does not care about that master bedroom at all. You know what room she thinks is the most important room in the house? Her bedroom. Because she's living in it, she decorated it, she's got herself so vested in it. She thinks that room, she could live in that room, in the kitchen, and be good. And listen, lots of people live a room in the house, and they think that room is just a little bit better than all the other rooms in the house. And as the owner of the house, do you know what room I like the best? I don't care. I like the laundry room. I like the kitchen. I like the upstairs bathroom. I don't care about rooms. I buy houses. What gives a room value is it's part of a house. Take that room outside of the house. It's a box in a field with no value. And yet here's what happens. People live in those rooms. They're in their department. They're in their area. And they just think this room is just so important. I mean, if it weren't for us, this whole place would fall apart. I mean, if it weren't for what we did, those people over there couldn't do their job, and we're so significant, and we're so special, and people feel that way because they live in it. And yet, the reality is, no room is as valuable as the house. And what tends to happen, this is a total heart issue. Y'all have jobs, y'all have functions, y'all have skills and abilities, so you serve an area because that's what your capacities enable you to provide the greatest value. So it's not a matter of hands at all, but owners isn't just about hands. It's about heart, about head. And the idea of being able to say, it's the biggest challenge I have when I work with executive teams on organizational culture. The biggest ask I make is, I need you to value this team, the executive team, over the department you serve. So they're VPs of whatever, sales, of customer service, of client retention, whatever they are. They're serving. They come in feeling like they've got to come in and represent their area. And they've got divisions amongst their people, amongst the departments. They're siloed. And it all starts here because their hearts value their room over the house. When you make that shift, it is bizarrely cool. But when people, particularly at the highest levels of leadership, and then it trickles down, value the house over the room, they become more valuable to the room. It's a weird little paradox that just happens. That when whatever level of team you're on, it's for the whole, you become more valuable to the room you serve. And typically the divisions and siloing between those, it starts with leadership and that stuff trickles down. And so the more you can get up, people valuing the whole, the more people downline want to value the whole, are willing to be helpful. It becomes very evident when one room is hurting and failing and in need, how all the other people respond to that room. If they're a pain or they're annoying or they're putting them out in their world and they'd rather not, or if everybody rallies to it and we'll take you in because it's the house, we care about the house, not the room. When one leader has to shift over to another room and serve there for a season, how that plays out, all becomes really evident on if you value the room or if you value the house. Renters love their room. Owners love the house. It's really that simple. And yet it takes a lot of conscious effort to be mindful of that. But once it's embedded, teams work entirely different when it's leadership teams of owners who really care for the whole and don't come and just care for their room. So, think about where you own, think about where you rent. It's just that simple. Ladies and gentlemen, we are at 5:30. Oh my goodness. I would ask you to think for yourselves, how do you show your ownership? And when you rally your people to have a greater depth of buy-in, think about these 5 different elements on how you can model it and talk about it, challenge your teams with it, and then talk about the challenges you have with it as well. It's really the best way to help others come on board is for you to verbalize how you're working through being an owner in all 5 of those. So thank you very much for your time and attention here and in the rooms. I really appreciate it. So turn it back over to you, Tim. There you go, sir.
Thank you very much, Greg. I think that fits in with a lot of what I hope you're hearing here at the school. If you're not aware, we're going to have a reception upstairs. Greg's agreed to circulate and let him drill you down there. Thank you very much for your attendance. We'll see you upstairs.